now I request Professor Debarati to please switch on her video. Madam, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
So, fine. Nice meeting you. A very good afternoon, Professor Debarati Sen. Thank you for accepting our invitation and joining this forum for delivering a lecture on a very upcoming technology, terahertz communication in 6G. So, dear participants, let me have the pleasure to introduce our guest, expert of today's evening, Professor Debarati Sen. Professor Debarati Sen is currently serving in GS Sanyal School of Telecommunication as Associate Professor. She received her Master's in Engineering in 2004 from IIEST Howrah as a University Gold Medalist and PhD in Telecommunication Engineering from IIT Kharagpur in 2010 as a National Doctoral Fellow. She was a postdoctoral research fellow with the Chalmers University of Technology, Sweden, and a senior chief engineer with the Samsung Research Bangalore, India, prior to her joining at IIT Kharagpur. In 2014, Professor Sen was a visiting faculty with the Institute for Communication Engineering, Technical University of Munich, Germany, and 2019, she was an academic visitor with the Department of ECSC, Monash University, Melbourne, Australia. In her research, Professor Debarati focuses on wireless and optical communication, including interdisciplinary computing, mostly on 5G and beyond communications, millimeter wave communications, large MIMO systems, short-range communications, terahertz communications, cloud RAN, visible light communications. Her research is supported by a variety of government organizations, including MHRD, BEL, HAL, MITI, DST, DRDO, Indian Railways, and external collaborators like Airbus, Qualcomm, Samsung, Ericsson, etc. Professor Sen has 12 patent applications to her credit, including a few US granted patents, and published more than 100 papers in journals and conferences of repute. She is an editorial board member of 2 international journals. She is recipient of Best Paper Awards at Samsung Tech Conference in 2010 and IEEE Arts in 2016. She got IE Young Engineers Award in 2010, IETE NVG Memorial Award in 2013, Qualcomm Innovation Fellowship in 2017, Faculty Excellence Award IIT Kharagpur in 2020, very recently. Professor Debarati is the present chair of IEEE Kharagpur section also. Professor, she is a senior member of IEEE, fellow IE, and life member Indian Science Congress Association. So we are very much fortunate today to have Professor Debarati Sen amongst us at NIT Rourkela, let's say in the virtual platform, even if it is a virtual platform. So may I hand over Professor Sen now to address and deliver her lecture. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Professor Das. It was a very long introduction. I have visited your university so many times. It's my great privilege actually to see you all again and address the audience on behalf of your institute once again. I'm really grateful to give me the opportunity to share some of my very recent research in terahertz communications. In fact, this is the first time I am speaking in audience about my terahertz research. Till now, most of the lectures I have delivered in academia as well as industry, abroad as well as within India, it is about the millimeter wave communications. So whatever I was doing in terahertz, this is the first time I am speaking in front of public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me share
Yes,
my
madam.
screen.
Yes, madam.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, madam.
So today's topic, hello everybody. Today's topic is terahertz communications for 6G. I know very well that till now 5G is not implemented completely, and we are talking about 6G today. But believe me, the most of the research that we could do for the 5G, and at least on the research level, not on the implementation related research, I am saying, network deployment related research, I am not saying, but actually signal processing side, the radio design side, network orchestration side, it's still going on in one hand, but very basic results and understanding is also the major chunk of the work is also performed in a pretty good fashion over the last 5 to 6 years. I should say not 5 to 6, it's almost a decade now. So the research in academia as well as industry have started slowly migrating towards the next terahertz communications, and it is coming as a big wave for the upcoming 6G technologies. See, when I'm talking about terahertz, we should know which is the frequency band over the radio spectrum we are talking about. So you see the millimeter wave was 30 millimeter to 3 millimeter, where we were talking about even 1 year back. I myself was talking about this zone. But today we are migrating slowly from 3 millimeter to 30 micrometer. So the frequency wise, if you try to see, I will show you the frequency band also a little bit later. So the basic message is that this is the last chunk of the radio frequency band where the communication systems engineers are putting their steps to develop the communication systems for mankind. Beyond this are the infrared zone that is coming up, where I will show that some of the getting a very high data rate over those infrared zone is not feasible via your wireless circuits and the components. So this is a migration that has happened remarkably over the last 20 years, 20-25 years. Today we are actually standing in 2020 and we are seeing that beyond LTE advanced, we are actually the first phase of the 5G is getting deployed worldwide. And we are expecting also that before 2025, also the second, third phase of the 5G with massive MIMO structures that will be with full beamforming, massive MIMO structure that will be getting deployed in practice for the use. All your cellular phones, handsets that will be also having the dual functionality for LTE Advanced as well as the 5G. 5G will be also in our indoor communications, and Wi-Fi communications will be uh, improved also in the under the umbrella of the 5G. So that's where we are standing. But what next if we look forward, the way the mobile devices and the traffic, total traffic is expected to grow. So we are expecting that 71% of this total traffic by 2020 in the network will be only from the mobile devices, which are the end users of the network. And by 2030, we are targeting that we will be we will cross 100 Gbps kind of that dream that we set 10 years back, that 100 Gbps wireless link that we will be crossing by 2030 almost. And that's where actually the today's WAD broadband speed or the data rates, the wireless will try to touch. So that's why that was the dream 10 years back we saw, and today it is a reality. So hence, with the help of terahertz, definitely we will be able to give you the data rate crossing 1 terabit per second. That's where the roadmap currently is for all of us. This is the terahertz gap. So we know that radio waves to microwave, we are now between the micro, milli to the tera. So it is a gap or the slice in between your millimeter wave and the infrared. And in millimeter wave, typically we talk that including the sub-6, beyond the sub-6 gigahertz, if we start, we will be ending up to 100 gigahertz. That's where millimeter wave modeling, our channel sounding, our experiments on the real field, the system design, multiple applications, or whatever we are talking about, indoor to outdoor, to your heterogeneous networks, to the backhaul, to your micro levels, to your radar communications, to your automotive radar applications, everywhere. So this whole umbrella basically covers the zone up to 100 gigahertz. When I'm talking about terahertz, we are crossing the boundary. So we are now 100 gigahertz to 10 terahertz. And believe me, at this moment, we are really, if you ask me whether device level wise we are ready to start with or not, very few devices are available that also in the lower terahertz zone. Up to 140 to 300 gigahertz, we are trying to say something, so which is actually 0.1 kind of actually. So in terms of the terahertz zone, so below up to the 0.1 something is available, but 10 terahertz is a very big dream for us to proceed with, especially making actually a remarkable improvement from the device side, antenna technology side, to make our dream possible. So question was, when millimeter wave came, people had a lot of questions about all such things. And there is a big question, why millimeter wave? But now we are asking why terahertz. So what was the problem that we faced in the millimeter wave, what we could not get from the millimeter wave communication is about? See, the number one is we, the people, are never satisfied with our data rates. Whatever the data rates we got from LTE Advanced or 4G, we were not happy with that. So we entered into millimeter wave, which promised us that up to 10 Gbps, it is frankly speaking, you will be able to get it. But now what if actually if you are asking for a 1 terabit per second link, then whether it is possible to get it from the millimeter wave, the answer is big no. Another example that with that very high data rate, whether the seamless data transfer is possible, a very ultra fast downloading, microsecond latency, less than 1 millisecond latency now we are talking about. So less than 1 millisecond latency, is it possible? So one target, one side actually we are trying to put the latency below 1 millisecond, another side we are trying to put ourselves the data rate hike for at least 1 terabit per second. With both the limits we keep on validating, so millimeter wave really fails. So that's where your terahertz is entering. And see this excessive throughput, where are we going to use this extensive throughput? That slowly it will be clear when the next application slides will come in this presentation. So if I have a very quick look at the background, what we have got from the previous technologies, LTE has given us with forecast flow up to 1 Gbps with some aggregated bandwidth of 100 megahertz. When 60 gigahertz millimeter wave came, outdoor 28 gigahertz talks about a bandwidth of up to 1 gigahertz that we are targeting, and that also cannot give you beyond 1 gbps, more than actually 2 to 3 gbps kind of situation. Outdoor, that also is very hard to get because you will be having a large distance covered. So come down to the millimeter wave indoor communication, which is supported by the 60 gigahertz next generation W Wi-Fi. And that promises definitely with the proper MIMO antenna size at around 10 Gbps kind of the data rate. But problem is actually even with this millimeter wave 60 gigahertz communication, you have a maximum bandwidth of 7 gigahertz only. So with this 7 gigahertz, that limitation has posed the upper bound on the data rate kind of. You may ask me why can't we go for the massive MIMO structures so that we can increase the data rate. Yes, you can go ahead with the MIMO structures, but there are a lot of actually beamforming related complications that come into picture. But and above all, actually, beyond going beyond 10 Gbps, whatever the experiments we have done and all the latest technologies we have imposed thereon. So with all those, actually, it is proved already that hiking a terabit per second link is not feasible even at the 60 or 77 to 88 gigahertz millimeter wave kind of communication. So terahertz is there for us. But beyond terahertz, beyond your 10 terahertz link, if you ask me that what will come in next future, the answer is that look, next is the infrared band, and we have the free space optical communication that will be enabling there, and there you can get a line of sight link definitely. And but the first hand results show that beyond 10 Gbps with the free space optics, beyond 10 Gbps link with the infrared is not going to happen with this wireless links with your line of sight kind of communication with your WLAN kind of environment. So better to come back to terahertz that there is a possibility, the feasibility is there to go ahead with. If you ask me at a quick, at a glance, what are the challenges now are upcoming if you are entering into terahertz? Question number one is we understand more the frequency is the path loss will be high. Yes, that rule still holds here. So very high path loss in the terahertz band you are expected to get. So you at the first hand you can understand that whatever the range we could dream for millimeter wave, suddenly actually it is coming down. So are we going to have a transmission over a centimeter range now in the terahertz? The question is answer is really big no. We are thinking that terahertz will come actually for the outdoor communication the way we are thinking for millimeter wave. That's where the biggest challenge is. I mean, this very high path loss, how to go ahead with the kind of the cellular communication outdoor as well as your Wi-Fi communication indoor at least is the question. And how I will implement actually this whenever this terahertz band transceivers will be coming into the back picture. So very high power consumptions both in the RF side, because you are understanding that the frequency is becoming in the terahertz range means the power consumption in all the RF components will be dramatically improving compared to your millimeter wave. So how to handle the all these power hungry devices will eat up a lot of the power and the heat also. So how to manage the implementation with this power hungry devices is a big question. We don't know. We have to come up with a dramatically new kind of the technology to compact the integration part of this RF section with your baseband circuits. Second thing is the antenna. So we have seen the remarkable improvement in the antenna technology from the MIMO to beamforming antennas, and yeah, the same antenna technology will lead us to enable the terahertz communication in practice. So ultra broadband antenna design is expected to be done for terahertz. So we are going to cross the 2 gigahertz or even 7 gigahertz kind of the bandwidth for the terahertz. It will be minimum your 10 gigahertz and beyond the transmission signal bandwidth is expected to happen. Frequency selective path loss is definitely there, and I will show that some other very interesting things from the channels are expected to happen in the terahertz. So if you try to see as a gist that we need a new modulation schemes definitely for terahertz, we need new radio designs for terahertz, new transmission schemes, it is open, the modulation, coding, your new kind of the beamforming, new kind of any other signal processing techniques that you can think of, the new communication protocols, and most importantly, please note that the terahertz bands worldwide for the commercialization is not yet regulated. I mean to say is that the FCC has not frozen yet that what will be the commercially available commercial purpose available bandwidth for the terahertz right now, but very quickly it will be coming up because it is under the study item right now. So if I see actually what are the challenges are there, what are the prospects are there. So channel modeling, physical communication, wireless networking, everywhere the problem is coming up. Channel modeling side, it is the You understand, right, that frequency has increased heavily now from millimeter wave. So the form factor will further reduce. If it reduces further, then there is a chance of packing much more massive antenna elements in your in over a very short area of your antenna part, antenna design side. So now we are expecting that ultra massive MIMO channel, ultra massive MIMO structure is expected to come. It's not the large MIMO or the massive MIMO, it will be the ultra massive MIMO structure expected to come now. Now the problem starts with this complicacy that if it's ultra massive MIMO, so with that we need to have a ultra massive MIMO channel modeling has to be done. And big part of these channel models, what are the crucial part of this ultramassive channel models are, it's not just a simple extension of what we have understood in the millimeter wave. Channel is becoming so ultra wide in terms of the bandwidth also that lot of new effects are expected to be visualized in the channel model, which we have never seen earlier. Not even the narrowband communication to wideband to millimeter wave wideband communications. Channel will be definitely once again the time varying, and with this ultra massive MIMO structure you have to come up with a 3D channel model definitely, because otherwise actually the 3D beamforming is not going to happen to give you the bootstrap in the SNR under this huge loss that is expected to happen. Wireless networking side, again you have to redesign because your interference is becoming massive in the structure. I will show you how actually the densification is expected to happen in the case of your terahertz. In view of that, the medium access, the interference management, even actually the distribution of the loads, the distribution of the resources, the computation, the whole network architecture that we have reformed, we have orchestrated for your millimeter wave needs to be revisited and realigned for kind of terahertz application to happen there. So cross-layer framework, it is still valid in the wireless networking like your millimeter wave, but actually in a more complicated fashion, I should say. So if I see that what are the interdisciplinary scenarios where now the terahertz is expected to come, is starting from your localization to space communication to Internet of Nano Things, and this joint radar and communications, that is a very new area that has just shooted up. The radar people, the radar bandwidth, which was basically utilized for detection and ranging uh, of the aircrafts mostly, or the clutters that are there in the environment in the radar application. Now the same band they are, the same communication now they are trying to impose when the detection is going on. We call it now as a radcom starting up with. So starting from the medical world to your radcom to your space communication to your cellular communication to everywhere you are. So terahertz is finding its application wise. So device and test bed. Actually, sitting in India, I should not promise that we are really very much lucky to develop the test bed. We could not really do a very efficient test bed for the millimeter wave, complete band of the millimeter wave yet. So though there is actually need actually for the test bed designs for the terahertz, but with Indian perspective, I don't know really. I can't comment anything that it will come up soon. So if you see the applications for the macro cell from the different zones, we have used the lower frequency zone for our broadcast, traditional broadcast of the radio and television. Then we came to the cellular phones for the little bit higher frequencies, millimeter wave and the lower frequency zones, narrowband transmissions we have done. And terahertz will be helping us for the secure imaging, secure communication. Going to the infrared, you are actually in the thermal cameras that you do. Visible lights, if you go higher and higher, you will be getting the visible light for the visible light based communication systems. Ultraviolet it is useful for your medicine and the medical applications. X-rays are mostly for our imaging, and the gamma rays actually are utilized for the killing live cells and all that. That's a broad application wise, and the data rates also, and the data rates and the frequency ranges I have given here for your easy ready recon kind of. So coming quickly to the macro scale applications of the terahertz. So the first figure where the cellular networks I am showing, so we are expecting the heterogeneous next generation small cell network, the heterogeneous networks will be enabled by terabit per second link. So everywhere, whatever we have done for the till now, that will be totally migrating to T-HETNet, terabyte HETNet, terabit HETNet, terabit WLAN, terabit WPAN, terabit W wireless personal area network, wireless local area network, and secure terabit wireless communication for the defense applications. If I go and look in detail how they will be utilized and all that, so everywhere the basic fundamental is to get and go ahead with the ultra high speed wireless communication. So the similar heterogeneous networks that needs to be further resolved, it is further divided into the smaller part to go ahead and have an heterogeneous network for the terahertz part. So the end user network is expected to be having the higher resolution for in future. So you are also trying to, whenever we are coming to the edge part or the last mile part, similarly actually for the backhaul also, from one base station to the next base station, today we have visualized that it will be a millimeter wave link, tomorrow it will be a terahertz wireless link. So there is no need of any optical fiber based connection between the two base stations in the future, and there will be very highly directive links for the backhauls also. So the seamless interconnection now people are expecting that from the wireless network to the wired network. So optical fiber to a wireless, there will be no lack in the latency time that we will be expecting in future. So with terahertz, we can expect that it is almost the seamless interaction, seamless transfer of the handover of the data is expected to happen. So from any of your Blu-ray disk to your any tablet like devices, if you wish to transfer, almost you won't be able to see any jitter even when that thing will happen. See, security is going to be enhanced like anything, because we understand that with the ultramassive structures, the beam widths that will be able to control will be even more sharper than whatever was a bare minimum resolution availed in the case of your millimeter wave. So with that, actually, we can understand that in a very physical world communication, the problems that are coming up with the eavesdropping and eavesdroppers, a hacking of the networks that can be heavily controlled at all the level, not only on the chip level, on the hardware side, also from your actual communication side. The greatest part is that this terahertz communication is also been visualized for planetary atmosphere analysis, the surface analysis, subsurface water, ice content, imaging from the space, and analyzing all those images for extracting the information. So tomorrow you will see that there is a big application at the nanoscale, because terahertz has improved, will be improving also your resolution capacity. So we will be talking about Internet of the Nano Things. So our understanding, so each and every smallest device that you see surrounding you, the smallest material that you see surrounding you, that can be actually be enabled with a sensor and a transceiver. We will be calling them as a nano transceiver and the nano antenna arrays, and their processing core and all that, like today, that will be in a cloud kind of. So all of them will be able to process partially locally with them, and the bigger processing will be in the cloud, and the exchange of the data is possible. So all the smallest devices, the nanoscale devices, will be having a connection to the internet. So today it is an Internet of Things, tomorrow it will be the Internet of Nano Things. That's all. So over the chip, ultra high speed communications now possible wirelessly by means of your terahertz. So these are the few more applications in the nano to the micro to the macro cell that we have already discussed. This is a few more application from the Tera Wi-Fi to the Tera IoT to the Tera IAV. This IAV is actually information and the backhauling. So it is a integration of access network and the backhauling jointly we are visualizing. See, if you wish to reduce the latency a lot, then the service providers in future need to access your access network resource for backhauling. So That's where actually this merging and the new term has come up very recently as the integration of this access plus the backhaul network. So it will be Tera IAB for future, uh, where the whole backhaul as well as the access will be covered by terahertz. Terahertz link. Tera-space communication is having the similar kind of the approaches. Diagnosis, the medical world that we understand now, that the blood pressure monitoring systems, the collection of the bloods and the needles and controlling of all of them, now it is applicable, it's possible for the terahertz level. Terahertz communication and communication to the satellite. So see, there's a broader umbrella of the 5G where we were thinking that everybody is possible to be connected. Terahertz communication will simply increase that level. Whatever the boundary till today we are seeing, it will cross the boundary limit. So starting from your pollution control to your medical applications to your space communication. These are some more expansion. One more thing here we have added is the terahertz data center networks. So in the millimeter wave, we have dreamed it that in the data center networks, there is no need of giving any wired connection between the data centers because they are very, very static. We could give a very nice actually static beamforming between the servers so that the high speed communication link is possible. But it was only possible for some of the local cases. For the very big servers where but suppose the countryside where the data aggregation is going on, there also we could not do it via the millimeter wave. But in terahertz, we will be able to do it completely wireless for all the data center networks. So this is the left side circle wise part is the multiple applications that terahertz is now showing the possibilities starting from the quality assurance to the screening to your pharmaceuticals to astronomy to communication to medical imaging. As our interest is only in the communication zone, so now you are seeing the small cell networks, in terahertz, we can visualize that every two rooms in one corridor or corridor wise, suppose you have multiple corridors over a floor. So every corridor wise you can have a small cells. One staircase, the lower west staircase and the upper west staircase, we can have a different cell. So multiple such kind of the cells will definitely improve the delivery rate and the data rate and the quality of the services that we are expecting today. Because of this nanoscale small cells, that now definitely all the problems that we had related to the data handover but data transfer from the outdoor to indoor or from the one room to the next room because of the millimeter wave high attenuation and all that, because of this smaller one, that will be resolved very heavily. These are the very common one that we were discussing. So regular communication will be further enhancing in terms of this terahertz application. Another new stuff is coming up. So see this rightmost corner, there is an application coming up called the RIS empowered terahertz. RIS is a new, I should say, it is a new surface. It is an intelligent surface, and this radio intelligent surface that we are coming up with it is basically a meta material. Each of this meta material, the arrays, it is formed in the form of an array, and we will be having a processor at the back end of this surface also this intelligent surface. And remember, this intelligent surface is now reconfigurable going to be. What is the meaning of it, you know? Suppose I wish to actually transmit the data to a particular direction. These guys are the passive device, but once you actually program them, they will, and they know the location of the next target, next location, next receiver. They will be redirecting your beam towards that typical target. So now if you tomorrow you will see that outside of your own building, the one more simple sheet is getting added. The way we put the coating of the color, right? When we do the color of our buildings, and to protect your building structure or to outside of your building wall. So tomorrow there will be a very fine sheet will be placed, and that will be helping basically the environment for a enhanced data communication for wireless. We can put this RIS on the top of a drone. You can put it on the top of your car, put it on the top of a train, put it on the top of anything that you can, any physical object that you can observe, and utilize that reconfigurable intelligent surface for the sake of your enhanced communication to reach. Terahertz will enable it because the frequency is so high that the your form factor will be very small, and so the gap between every such reflecting elements, that will be very small. So the structure itself will have a massive MIMO structure inherited inside it. So these are some of the applications, self-explanatory. If you go through, I hope you will be able to go through it. Let me quickly go towards some of the summary of this application. So what we have understood right now, that ultramassive MIMO structures will be enabled by virtue of the RIS, that will be a reality, and that has become already a reality. It's not a joke kind of today. So 3D beamforming technology, which was actually very tough task going to be happening for millimeter wave, in presence of your RIS, this 3D beamforming will be a very easy job going to be. So we can utilize our whole cellular network for the virtual reality perception wise. And automotive applications, security measures, hybrid, terahertz versus optical. So now we are almost at the boundary of the optical, this was optical communication. So terahertz and optical handshaking, that will be very easy kind of for going ahead with. Terahertz will be always for your enhanced data center networks also. So these are the very basic comparison with your millimeter wave to infrared to visible light to ultraviolet, where we are standing today. And the data target is currently crossing 100 Gbps, though this is the data that I have written for the first phase only. So 1 terabit per second, quickly we let the 3 years go. You will see that this target data rate will be increasing beyond 1 terabit per second. A quick look inside the channel measurement part. So if we see, the right side is telling the attenuation characteristics of our terahertz frequencies. We have seen the absorption, oxygen absorption in millimeter wave. Here the molecular absorption loss is really high, but not the oxygen. Here the higher water molecules will be causing, in addition to the oxygen molecules, and over the wider zone of the terahertz, wherever you move, depending upon that, the losses will keep on varying via the different molecules present in the air. A remarkable thing is that in millimeter wave, we saw that there is a dominant path coming. Here also you will see a dominant path coming. You will see here also the non-line of sight paths are getting minimal, but very big phenomena is now happening inside it. Millimeter wave was dominated by the reflectors. Reflection was the major phenomena happening inside the channel, because of which your power was getting received in the front end of receiver. But millimeter terahertz will have a scattering effect, a dominant scattering effect happening in the multiple cases. So sometimes it may happen that the scattered power will dominate over your reflected power. This scattering phenomena as well as the diffraction also dominates here in some of the cases. Scattering will be present almost all the cases over whole frequency zone of the terahertz. That is now remarkably pointed out. And diffraction also will be prominent from scatterer to the scatterer, or the environment to environment effect. So these are coming into the picture because, see, the roughness that you could see in the millimeter wave, the same material will show you the more roughness, because you are now able to see the resolution with which you are seeing the material surface. It has enhanced now, and that's why that roughness will cause now the scattering of the rays whenever some ray will be falling on the surface of any material of your surroundings. That's where actually why the scattering is coming up. Earlier, the same, because of the lower zone of the frequency in the millimeter wave, same material might have actually behaved as a reflector, but now he himself will be behaving as a scatterer plus the reflector. Apart from that, your rain attenuation is definitely there. So what are the prominent zones that are expected to be useful for the communication for terahertz? If you ask, that will be 120, 183, 325, 380 gigahertz. They are most likely going to be used for the communications. 77, 140 to 40 zones, they only suffer actually 1 dB or kind of the loss compared to be when caused by the free space propagation per kilometer. And so they will be utilized for the fixed applications, broadband, mobile and all that. And remember one thing, that this kind of the selection of the bands currently is a very first hand kind of. Seeing the kind of the attenuation they are happening, based on that only I have commented here who will be used for what, but that is not a fixed kind of rule like that. So, for example, 140 gigahertz, currently industry is targeting 140 gigahertz to release their first level of the product for the terahertz. So, it's not true that always it will be only for the fixed applications. Some of the applications we will try to come up with the signal processing level, at least we will try to enable to make the systems available, systems suitable also for at least pedestrian speeds or a very lower speeds. Similar studies have been done for 183, 325, 380, which are having which suffers a much greater attenuation over the distances. So they are preferably will be used for the short range and secure communications. And if you are seeing the compare the losses of sub 6 gigahertz, 10 millimeter wave and terahertz, you will see that some of the cases we are seeing here where actually the additional losses is less than 10 dB per kilometer compared to sub 6 gigahertz. So free space propagation here up to 300 gigahertz if you have a wide range of overlook and all that. So that small window where we will be having a comparable kind of the losses to the sub 6 gigahertz, those bands will be targeted by the industry for developing the communication system for the outdoor applications. That is definitely sure. Though you will not be getting a wider bandwidth, that you will get a very high frequency, and that will be definitely useful for kind of the localization applications, useful for the detection applications, useful for the secured communication or ranging operations, for all those. So that's all actually for the different measurement highlights. So going beyond the 600 and the 800 gigahertz, so attenuation is really pretty high. It will be 100 or 200 kilometer per kilometer attenuation we are expected to happen. So the distance wise also only your 10 to 20 dB over a 100-meter distance you will be able to see. So you have to have a very strong signal processing to be devised to overcome all such kind of the losses that are expected to happen there. This is a summary of over the different frequency range from 275 to 910 gigahertz over the wide range of the whole terahertz. What are the contiguous bandwidth you are getting and how people have mapped it for the development of the current channel modeling is worldwide going on. So how people are putting their effort for different such zones and what is the first short losses they have come up with, including the spreading loss as well as the molecular absorption. So what people are targeting right now is again for the 140 gigahertz with our experience of 2 gigahertz channel bandwidth for millimeter wave, people are trying to develop the systems with 140 gigahertz and the same 2 gigahertz channels. But remember with the 140 also the huge channel bandwidth available. This is a picture of the NYU, where Professor Rappaport's group has done their channel sounding using the 140 gigahertz, and this reports is it is already reported now in their website as well as the publication wise, but the raw data is not available, but the whole environment, the way the whole experiment is done, that is actually available. It gives us a very nice idea that what are the channels expected to be. So as with a very simple horn antenna, they have done this kind of the experiment, which shows us that they could do a non-line of sight over, at least over non-line of sight environment, a communication link can be established over a frequency bandwidth of 4 gigahertz. And there are a lot of the actually limitations over this whole test bed and all that, but still it is the first reported results over the 140 gigahertz over the non-line of sight. Important thing is over the non-line of sight. It is possible. If you ask me the amount of the path loss compared to your 28 gigahertz millimeter wave to 73 gigahertz millimeter wave automotive radar application is there in 73 to 140, how the dB losses are propagating. So the answer is actually, so with respect to 28 gigahertz, you will be having 14 dB more losses in the 140 gigahertz, and 72 it is a 6 dBi kind of. It gives you an idea that how your beamforming gains and the antenna gains that are expected, array gains from the antennas are expected to be designed here. So 28 gigahertz is the millimeter wave outdoor communication what we are targeting for the immediate 5G deployment. So from there where we are jumping up is actually 14 dB higher loss and design the same kind of the network with the same range of the operation is the target for the next generation. So these are the few more explanation further related compared to the millimeter wave channel. Where are we standing in terms of the time of arrivals and the direction of arrivals, as well DOD and DOA, changes in the DOD and DOS, change in the path gain profiles, and how the coverage problem. Actually, the coverage of any radio range depends largely on the DOA AOD estimation, also the path losses, and which you have to cover with this massive antenna structure. So that's why it's a study of initial such studies are so important. Okay, one point I should mention that with if you come up with a 256 cross 256 ultramassive MIMO system structure, then if I ask you that how many number of the multipass are you trying to get in the environment compared to a millimeter wave structure in a terahertz case. So one point is sure that terahertz channels are going to be even more sparse compared to your millimeter wave. We have definitely seen here also that the overlapping clusters inside the sparse channels are coming into picture. The channel is also having a cluster effect. So you will be having seen that the multipaths are getting spread not only over the delay axis, they will be definitely having a spread over the angular axis also. That spread, that sparsity is even more here, and hence actually collecting the energy from the channel is a very real challenge going to happen sitting in your receiver. This is an experiment already people have done in a simulation in an outdoor terahertz channel case. It is in a simulation platform definitely. It is a downtown Manhattan area where people have tried to implement 256 cross 256 ultramassive MIMO outdoor channels, outdoor systems for channel sounding. And they have taken a distance between transmitter and the receiver around 160 meters. So you can see here that this is a transmitter kept in top of another building, and here is my receiver in between on the road. It is standing. All the different colors with which I have drawn here, these are basically showing at with what power the multipass are getting received towards your receiver. So the darker the color towards the blue is actually you are having a lesser amount of the lesser signal power getting received, and whereas actually this red side is the higher one. But even in the higher one, you are seeing that the level of the signal power that you are receiving is almost buried, heavily buried in the noise kind of. So signal processing challenge to retrieve your data in spite of your having a massive structure and all that, it is definitely there. So it is good for the people like us or the signal processing side that we had yet to do a lot in the innovative ideas to come up with for the signal processing beyond actually your ultramassive MIMO structures and hybrid beamforming and all those. These are actually some of the explanation how scattering happens here. So as I explained that all the surfaces now, they're seeing a surface exactly the smooth, even the mirror I understand mirror, a very smooth mirror. If it is polished very well, it will be reflecting for your terahertz. Otherwise, you will be also doing something like this. If you in a minor scale, if you look into a mirror, it will not polished well. It will look like a rough surface for you. And that's where actually instead of this reflected wave, you will be having the reflection plus some scattered waves also. So whenever scattering happens, right, so the energy for reflection, it is concentrated and comes back. But if it is a scattering happening, so sitting in the receiver to capture the power over the scattered signal is a very big problematic stuff. So very recent paper is published in ICC 2019, who have very nicely shown the mechanism and modeling of these kind of the scattering waves and scattering phenomena that is happening inside a terahertz channel. And actually they have also done a very nice study. If you keep on varying this incident wave angle and over your different kind of the materials, how the reflected versus scattering power is getting distributed. Some of the cases you will see that the scattering power is dominating over your reflection power. For example, if 30-degree inclination happens, so your reflection power is even lower than your scattered power happening. So you should not actually rely upon the reflected signal path. Rather, you will try to collect over the scattered power. Until now, we have not devised any signal processing technique sitting in the receiver who will collect something from the scattered power level. Scattering sometimes actually to us, scattering is actually something which has scattered over 360-degree kind of structure, and it's very hard to actually collect your power from the scattered directions. You need to know what is the scattered direction coming out before you start collecting the power from all those directions. So, but what will you do for such situation is a very big question to the signal processing people. This is actually I kept to give you an idea that if you are having suppose 96 Gbps data rate targeting, you have a 256 QAM and you have 6 channels, each are having 2 GHz wide and 140 GHz is the carrier frequency for transmission. If I try to cover a distance of 100 meter, 30, 70 and 100 meter, what actually is the budget, link budget or link margin I am ending up with? See, actually till 70 meter I could get a 2.61 dB kind of structure where my maximum data rate is 96 Gbps kind of, but transmit power is pretty less with -5 kind of, by -5 dBm kind of. But then the question is actually that what kind of transmit antenna gain and the receive antenna gain we have to propose so that we can go ahead with like that. And remember one thing, in this whole calculation currently, it is relying upon only the huge bandwidth, 12 gigahertz bandwidth you are getting, because I have given you 2 gigahertz channels and all 6 channels are there for you for your transmission. And if I wish to give you get a 96 Gbps kind of the data rate with an 8 bits per second per hertz. So this budget at least shows that up to 70 meter there is a possibility that we can get close to 100 Gbps data rate and also a 70 meter distance with a positive link margin, with suppose as a certain antenna gains we can reach. But question is, what is that antenna gain I am asking? If you don't give any antenna gain, it's an omnidirectional transmission going on, your receive DV level is -100 close to. If you gave 50 dBi antenna gain, both at the transmitter plus at the receiver, then you are ending up with a 2.61 dB. So 50 dBi antenna gain. So now you can imagine the size of the array that I have to keep on, and in order to receive this such kind of the antenna gains, that also actually some of those power will be scattered. Now I know from the channel. This is actually a straightforward pen and paper AWG and channel calculation. At least gives us a hope that if I can design an array which will give me a 51 dB gain, and there is a possibility that I can design the link, I can establish the link, provided actually I am able to capture the power from the scattered signals from the environment. So here channel effects are really not there. It is only a path loss dependent link budget calculation that I have shown, but the basic question and the doubt whether terahertz can give us 100 Gbps at all, and that also with beyond centimeter, the question is now actually of no doubt kind of. Yes, 70 meter to 100 meter distance, it is possible you can go ahead with. If you increase this antenna gain by virtue of the beamforming gain, you can really travel. So if quickly to see what are the different kind of the channel modeling approaches are there in currently in practice. People have tried actually all the three, the based on the scenario, based on the modeling approach, based on the number of the antennas, and we understand that we will be having losses, small scale mobility, and non-line of sight propagations. So people tried the deterministic channel model, and these are the all open problems that I have listed here. So problems will be how will you determine the material properties, how will you develop the efficient 3D ray tracing simulators, how I will do the analysis on the time varying properties of each and every guides. That is where the current deterministic channel modeling guides are facing the problems. If you go ahead with the statistical channel modeling, the open problem and challenges are that the statistical modeling or the temporal broadening effects that is not understood yet. What is you mean temporal broadening, you know? So here, whenever your bandwidth has got a ultra wide kind of, and then the channel starts showing you delay squint and the beam squint effect. And it will also show us that because of the widening, they will be having dual widening effect. So temporal as well as the spatial domain, the broadening of the signal is expected to happen when you will receive the signal. It's not only the scattering, beyond that the widening of the dual widebanding effect is expected to happen when you will receive it. How I will now behave my cluster behavior is also a very big question under the scattering effect is an open challenge. There are some more things actually. The joint modeling of the temporal and the spatial effect of the channel is expected to come. So people thought that let us go ahead with the hybrid channel modeling. But if you try to do that, then you have a trade-off between your computational complexity of the statistical model and the accuracy of the RT model, the ray tracing one. And main benefits, this approach is currently standing in literature where people are seeing at least some benefits could be included, where the modeling accuracy, the critical multipath component, we can compute deterministically. Comparatively, it will be a low complex because you are also trusting on the RT model. These are actually some comparisons over that. I'm not entering in details about the different one. This is our way of approaching. We have started doing the channel modeling at our end. And what we have thought is that we will be progressing towards something called geometry-based stochastic channel model. And this will be a combination of the ray tracing plus it is again a hybrid approach definitely. And we will consider the two different kind of the types, which is a regular GBSCM and irregular GBSCM. They have actually, there is a necessity to address both because some addresses actually some properties of the channel, and other one is a little bit more. I am now constrained by the time, so I cannot go in detail about all this. And this was actually the dual wideband effect that I was explaining that time. See, now channel you can see in multiple domain. You have a spatial frequency channel. You have the multiple antennas. You have the multiple frequency bands because you are very wideband system. So we see the channel as a spatial frequency channel. But if you take the 2D IFFT of this channel, you can see the channel in angle and the delay domain. So how, in which angle the multipaths are coming and what is the corresponding delay of the channel. We call that it is an angular delay channel. So spatial frequency channel and angular delay channel, they are 2D IFFT of each other. Apart from that, you can do a 1D FFT. If you do that, you can loop the channel in the spatial delay domain. This delay squint effect that I was explaining, we find it here. If I do a 1D FFT over the frequency, I will go to the angle. I can see the channel in the angle frequency domain. Here we will see that over a beam squint effect is happening. Another is that last one is that you can see the angular delay channel. So you can see the channel in the 4 different dimension now. Spatial frequency, angular delay, spatial delay, angular frequency. How now you will design your modulation and in which domain you will optimize your transmission and the radio design is your call now. In some of the cases, you would love to minimize the delay squinting effect. Some cases, the beam squinting effect. Some cases, you will be targeting only the reduction of the square diffusion effect. So that's the amazing thing, actually, the way the terahertz has given us a challenge with this massive structure and with this 4 dimension of the channel now that is there for us, for the signal processing guys, to design our both transmitter algorithm as well as the receiver one. These are the few references that may help you out to understand the slow migration that has happened from the millimeter wave to terahertz. I hope this will be helpful for your reading and the reference. Thank you. If you have some question, I will be happy to address.
Can I ask a question, please?
Please.
I'm Dr. Purandare from Pune. It appears in the terahertz band, along with path loss, handoffs or handovers will be a major problem to look into. You're saying probably at every flight of stairs, you will be having a different cell.
True.
So changing.
No.
So
That's why actually there is a very interesting concept coming up. So even actually in the 5G we thought it will come, but it was not popular that sense. Still we can have a concept of cell. But see, in the terahertz, there is no concept of cellular communication as such. It's going to be completely deleted. We will have a cluster of the base stations who will jointly serve you. As you will move, the cluster of the base station trajectory will move. Are you getting my point, ma'am?
Yes. I'm getting it.
Now I'm getting it.
Okay.
So,
yes.
Do you remember that Vodafone's advertisement? One puppy is behind you, and there was a caption: "Wherever you go, network follows." So that is exactly going to happen with the network with terahertz communication. You won't be under a single base station. You cannot be. There will be always a cluster of the base station, which is definitely your neighboring base stations, who will be jointly serving you. So they have the shared information about your location and the way you will be trajecting. You will never be disconnected. Your home base station may be disconnected, but any one of the base station next, when based upon your direction, some new base station will be joining to serve you. Now, if you ask me how it will happen at the network level, that's the biggest challenge that is coming up for the network. Now we have seen the network function virtualization has happened already. Software functioning SFN has already come for the network. Some further advancement is expected to happen to make the network complete flexible, in the sense that starting from the physical layer itself, I see that the network is expanded version of the multiple base stations to me.
Yes, got it. Thank you, madam.
You're welcome. Any other query?
Any other query, please?
Madam, if no one is asking, I had one more.
Sure.
Yes. RIS. I would be, maybe in future, I would be wearing RIS on my watch, or it's my own RIS.
See, actually, one point is sure. So the spectacles that you are wearing, it will have one sensor and one transceiver associated with it. Your watch will be definitely, maybe your bangle is also with it. Your anything that is you are wearing, if required, it will definitely happening. So if tomorrow you are asking for a very sophisticated health checkup, we can provide it to you, ma'am.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you, thanks a lot.
So milliseconds level health checkup data, you will be able to see.
Thank you very much, madam, for joining us and delivering such a nice lecture and so with so clarity. It's very much remarkable, madam. Your
Thank you.
presentation
Thanks a
always,
lot.
always I appreciate for that. Thank you. Thank you, madam, again.
Yeah, so if you have some questions offline,
Yes.
you can send me mail.
Yes, madam.
I will be happy to
I'll
answer.
request participants to send their queries, if any, in email. And madam, kindly share the PPT also. We will share it with participants.
Sure, sure.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.